Lee Banville. I'm an associate professor of journalism at the University of Montana.
You know, I've been working with law enforcement for many years, doing, just straight news here at KGVO, and the issue of methamphetamine comes up again and again and again. And I noticed that your folks at the University of Montana School of Journalism are doing a special project. What's it about?
It's about, we hear about meth constantly, whether it's in an individual violent crime or even in petty theft cases, or you'll hear it crop up sometimes in connection to child welfare cases. And what we wanted to do was sort of, rather than try to do these individual stories about one case or one crime, to really kind of look on a more systemic level, what's going on in Montana when it comes to this influx of drugs, and how is it affecting, our courts, how's it affecting our social welfare system, how's it affecting law enforcement, and how's it affecting families. And so we wanted to that's a really complicated story to tell in one story, and so we decided to do a series that mixes audio and photography and written pieces and digital infographics to try and tell really the full story of what meth is doing to Montana these days.
It's unfortunate that meth has quite literally woven itself into the whole fabric of the way we live in Montana right now.
Yeah, it's in reporting this. We knew a lot of the data when we went in. You can look at a statistic like the number of child protective cases that have started in the last 7 years have increased 400% connected to meth, and we don't see anything like that in terms of prescription drug abuse or marijuana or alcohol. But the meth numbers have skyrocketed, and we knew that, which is one of the reasons we did it. But then when we dig into it, the way in which there are generations of families that have been addicted to this drug or continue to be addicted to this drug, it really kind of takes your breath away, and it really kind of it puts a new perspective on how difficult it will be to kind of come up with solutions for something like this.
Now, is that going to be part of your reporting as looking at potential solutions?
Yeah, we can't just point out all the ways in which it's making things a mess. We wanted to offer some ideas of hope, and some of them are new treatment techniques. Some of them actually are dead ends. Like, there has been an effort to try and research a drug alternative that could help people beat meth, and actually they've found that there's almost nothing that they can use. And so sometimes it's those dead ends, and sometimes it's things like the drug court run by Judge Larson here in Missoula, where they're trying to, it's very invasive. They test these people all the time to ensure that they're clean, but they stay out of jail, they keep their kids, and it offers them a second chance. And so, there are sort of a mix of the severity of the problem, and then, what are some of the potential ways we might be able to address it.
One of the shows that we did about meth was involving the foster care system, mm-hmm. and how that they have been absolutely, as you mentioned, overwhelmed with the amount of children that, the Watson's Children's Center, there's no room there. There's just no room for these kids whose parents are in some cell someplace trying to dry out.
Right, and there's a really interesting, and I can't tell you we have a great answer to this. There's a really interesting question about should they go back home to these parents until we know that they can stay clean? Because one of the things that keeps coming up again and again is this generational quality to it, where it's like if your parents are addicted to meth, the chances that you are going to go down the same road are enormously higher. And so sometimes the argument, and we definitely have foster parents who are like, you can't let these kids go back to these parents because I know what's going to happen. And, I don't know if it's that easy, that it's one thing or the other, but it certainly does really raise some questions about what is the best way to help these kids who are in meth-affected homes.
And not only that, but what happens to the children of mothers who are meth addicts who are born meth addicts?
Right.
I can't even imagine how horrible that is.
Right, and it's also, it's not only the difficulty that child has with, a family that's already torn apart by drug use, but the actual physical effects that drug can have on a newborn are significant, and they're still studying it because it's become so, the image that, the Montana Meth Project helped sort of formulate was that meth is something that, 15-year-olds cook up in their basement and then use, and they lose their teeth, and you can see them, right? You know what a meth addict looks like. The fact is that actually the modern meth meth addict can be a very high-functioning, normal-looking person who is also on this incredibly powerful drug that is affecting them and their family.
And, of course, most of the meth is now coming from the super labs in Mexico.
Yes, and that's part of the story, too, is to really kind of explain how that shift has made it harder to identify meth and also really harder to choke it off, because it's no longer, Montana made a huge leap in tackling meth when they moved, the homemade ingredients behind the counter at the at the pharmacy, and now we're looking at a much different model where meth is coming in across the border from Mexico. It's coming up from Denver and Seattle, and what we're seeing is it's a lot cheaper, it's a lot more potent, and it's a lot harder to stop.
Gotcha. So when and where can we see your reports?
So we've started a series of sort of audio portraits that we're calling the Voices of Meth, and they're available at this website that we started called the Meth Effect, or metheffect.com. And all of our content will be living there. We're also partnering up with other institutions to promote these stories regionally and nationally. But all of the content will be there. It'll be launching over the coming months, but you can already listen to, the story, these sort of non-narrated stories of a dad who's trying to deal with an adult daughter on meth, a former addict, a cop, a judge, a drug researcher, just all sorts of different people who are kind of, we're calling the Voices of Meth, who kind of give you a sense of the diversity of how this affects people, and then we'll have a much bigger, sort of more comprehensive report come the beginning of May.